company for my whole life, actually, but promoting the products and wellness club to everyone for actively for about 5 years, but been a promoter for about 20 years. Love everything about Neolife. Excellent company, and I'm really glad to be able to help people the way we do with their health and their diets and also finances for people who want to do a business. So tonight I am pleased to have Sherry Reef doing our presentation on blood sugar regulation. She has a lot of knowledge about blood sugar since her husband is a type 1 diabetic, and she has been working with that for many years now. And I've known Sherry for about 13 years, and she just really has a wealth of knowledge for all kinds of health issues and helping people, and I'm really happy to have her in my team. So help me welcome Sherry Reef.
So like Gina said, my name is Sherry Reef, and I live here in Green Bay. We've been with Neolife since 2010, when my husband was facing some health challenges. It came into our life, and it literally saved his life. So I'm eternally grateful for the company, and I have a huge passion for health and helping people with their health. Like Gina said, my husband is a type 1 diabetic, and type 2 diabetes runs very strong in his family. So tonight's presentation is something that's very near and dear to my heart, because out of control blood sugar can cause a lot of problems. So I just want to start by saying Neolife does not claim to cure, prevent, or anything like that, just giving information. And though my nickname is Dr. Sherry, I do not have any medical training. I just enjoy learning about how our bodies work and how we can help them work better naturally. So, all right, let's see. So why is blood sugar regulation important? It optimizes cellular energy. It minimizes the risk of diabetes and maximizes fat burning for weight loss. That last one is really important, because we know when we eat something with carbohydrate, our pancreas produces insulin. Well, insulin is a hormone, and it is a fat storing hormone. So you want to make your glucose balanced so that your insulin doesn't store fat, because we don't want to store fat. Who wants? So the science of blood sugar regulation, if you see here in the bar, that is the glycemic control zone. So when we eat a really heavy carby meal, pizza, lots of bread, pasta, your blood sugar is going to raise really quick, and then it's going to tank. And so then you're going to feel like you need to eat, and then it's going to go back up. So the best thing to do is eat foods that are low on the glycemic index, so that you stay in that green ribbon there, so you're not on that glycemic roller coaster all the time. So glucose management. Here you can see our cells are where our energy lives, and everything starts with the digestion in our mouth. It goes into our stomach, which then signals our pancreas and our liver to secrete the hormones that we need to send that energy where it needs to be, the micronutrients for our health, and the glucose for our energy, and our heart and our blood vessels. So in the intestines, that's where the glucose is taken up, and then it signals the pancreas. And the pancreas produces the insulin and the glycogen, or the glucagon. Glycogen is something different, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then the liver helps distribute the glucose control and send it where it needs to be sent. So insulin and glucagon regulate your blood glucose levels. When we have high blood glucose, when we have a high blood glucose level, you see you start with the high level, that would be after you eat, and then your pancreas takes out the insulin, and it stimulates sending in the glucose into our cells, and then the liver will store some glucose as well. That's really important to know because your liver, if your blood sugar drops too low, like for a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic especially, that would have too much insulin in their system, if their blood sugar would drop too low and they weren't able to get to a food source quick enough, or like if you've been exercising and your blood sugar starts to drop low, your liver will actually make glucose from the stored, from the store that it has, and it will distribute it just as if you had eaten. So that's very important that our liver has that, but you don't want your liver getting too much of it. And then our cells obviously need that. And red blood cells can only run on glucose. They can't run on fat. They can't run on anything other than glucose. So we have two energy sources, fat and carbohydrate. But the red blood cells can only use glucose. So that's another reason that it's important that the liver is able to make that. So then that cycle continues. When you have a low blood glucose level, that would be a couple hours after eating or in the morning. Well, that's a whole other story. I won't get into that. But you have your blood glucose level drops as the insulin takes your high glucose level down, and then it stores and it gets it back to normal where it needs to be. So here we got cellular energy and glucose transport. This is our blood in our bloodstream. So what happens is you eat, you have the glucose, it's in your bloodstream, and it needs to go into the cells. You don't want glucose floating around in your bloodstream. So there we have the cell, and on the cells, every cell in your body has an insulin receptor. It's like a door. So then the insulin is knocking on the receptor saying, I have glucose here, let the glucose in. So the glucose goes into the cell, and then the cell goes into the receptor, or goes in, the molecule, and then goes in, and then it gets stored in the cell. So minimizing the risk of diabetes. These are just a few facts. 347 million people worldwide, it's about 90%, have type 2 diabetes. And then it's like, I was just listening to something, it's like 1 in 10 have type 1 diabetes, which is what my husband has. And the difference between type 1 and type 2 is type 1 is an autoimmune disorder. So your body starts attacking the pancreas, and it kills the beta cells, so it can't make insulin. And you have to take insulin externally. Whereas a type 2 is your receptors just aren't answering the door. They're stuffed with too much glucose, so they can't fit any more in. Think about a suitcase. You know, you're trying to jam pack everything into that carry-on, and it's just too full. You can only sit on it so much to fit stuff in. When it can't fit any in, it's going to store that sugar in the liver, and you're going to end up with fatty liver disease. And when there's no other place, your fat cells are just too full, the sugar is going to spill out into your bloodstream, and that's going to cause a lot of problems, as we're going to talk about in a minute. So over 3 times as many people have pre-diabetes. So about 86 million Americans. And pre-diabetes is where you're borderline. So it's good to catch it. Well, it's good to avoid it completely, but it's good to catch it when you're in the pre-diabetes phase and fix it. So what can we do? We can have a nutrient-rich diet, lose weight, and increase physical activity. I think the increasing physical activity is probably more important because of the way that we eat. When we're constantly eating, you're constantly producing insulin. So it doesn't give it time to rest. You have no time to use up all that. You have no time to use up all the sugar that's in there, and there's no place for it to be stored. So if you're increasing your physical activity, you're going to use that glucose more efficiently. So that will help keep it from going into the bloodstream because you're going to use it. How can we protect our kids? Diabetes is now one of the most common chronic diseases of our youth. In 2009, more than 192,000 U.S. children ages 16 to 19 had diabetes. I remember when I was younger and when my husband was diagnosed, we called type 1 juvenile diabetes because only kids got it. And type 2 was adult onset. It's now no longer that. Now it's type 1 and type 2 because so many of our kids are getting type 2 diabetes. They're getting that, what used to be adult onset, because they're eating all this sugar, this processed food, they're not outside playing, they're on their computer or their video games, or they're sitting at a desk for 8 hours. They can't burn up that energy. So poor nutrition is considered the primary cause. We're busy, we eat a lot of processed food, you get stuff in the box, McDonald's. I know I used to work at McDonald's, and I remember one lady coming in, and she was just tired, and she was just like, thank you so much for cooking dinner for me tonight. And that was 20-some years ago, and I mean, McDonald's isn't going anywhere. If anything, they're expanding. So what is going wrong? Type 1 is, like I explained, you have no insulin. So a type 1 diabetic, they have all this sugar, but nothing is knocking on the cellular door because there's no insulin saying, I have sugar here. So they will actually lose weight. They're not storing any of the fat. It's going out in their urine. Type 1 is insulin resistant. So that is where those insulin receptors aren't working because the cells are just too full, and so you knock and you knock, and what happens is there's sugar in the bloodstream, so that signals the pancreas to release more insulin, but there's no place for that glucose to go, so then that insulin is just going to store it in fat. It's kind of like when you tell your kid to put their shoes on in the morning, and by the 5th time you're screaming, put your shoes on. It's kind of the same thing. So diabetes, what you could experience. Hyperglycemia. Lots of glucose, but cells have no energy. They have no energy because they can't utilize the glucose that's in there, or they get depleted of the glucose, but the receptors just aren't working anymore, working as efficiently as they should, so no more energy is able to get in. Excess glucose acts as an antioxidant. It damages microcirculation and heart disease. That's really important because for so long, I mean, who's heard that heart disease comes from high cholesterol? The truth is it doesn't. There is no link that cholesterol has anything to do with heart disease. That has actually been disproven. But there is tons of scientific information and proof that heart disease comes from out of control glucose, out of control blood sugar, and that comes from carbohydrates. Prolonged elevated blood sugar can damage organs such as your eyes and kidneys. It can cause nerve damage, which is also known as neuropathy. My father has that. It can cause ulcers and infections. So you think on a diabetic, sometimes even a pre-diabetic, you get a sore. So you cut yourself and it's not healing and it's infected. What do infections love? They love sugar. And the sugar is there in the bloodstream. So it's feeding it, and then you get a wound that doesn't heal, and you can end up with an amputation. So another really important reason that we have to keep our glucose and our blood sugar in balance. The most effective prevention is to resensitize insulin receptors. So increase insulin sensitivity by making lifestyle and nutritional changes. Key word there, lifestyle. Whatever you choose to do, it needs to be for life. There is no quick fix. Reduction in the incidence of type 2 diabetes with lifestyle intervention or metformin. Metformin is the most popular type 2 diabetic medication. If you're going to go on medication, which I would suggest trying to find something else first, metformin would be the one that you would want to start with. There are side effects that are kind of nasty with it, but it doesn't cause you to produce more insulin. It actually makes your insulin receptors more sensitive. So if you can get away with that, I would suggest diet change first, but that would be the better versus that. Lowering your carb intake, increasing your exercise, things like that, because what's going to happen when metformin fails is you're going to start having to inject yourself with insulin. And once you get to that point, it takes a lot of work to come back from that. And then you end up with weight gain. I can make anyone fat, I just give them enough insulin. So how can Neolife help? These are some of the nutritional products that Neolife has that can help with blood sugar. And one of the reasons that I absolutely love these is because they are just food. So often we see things in nutritional stores that say, this will help with, X, Y, and Z or whatever. And you look on the label and it says, if you're pregnant or nursing, check with a doctor. Keep out of reach of children. That to me says they're not pure, they're not food, they're not what our body needs. Neolife has what our body needs because our body is designed by God to run on food. So it makes sense. And there's only a couple of products that the FDA requires that we keep out of reach of children. All the ones that are here do not have a warning label on them at all. And to me, that speaks volume. So our cellular energy and nutrition. This is where it all starts. Whole grains from whole grain lipids and sterols for efficient cellular nutrient transport. Phytonutrient protection from fruits and vegetables, from fruit and veggie carotenoids. Ultra pure fish with all 8 omega-3s. So we often hear about EPA and DHA. Everything works better as it was intended in nature. So we want all 8, as if we were sitting down to a nice piece of fish, which I can't quite stand, so I'll take it in the capsule, thank you. And the essential vitamins and minerals. I want to stop here for a minute because I personally do not eat whole grain. I do not eat red products. And so in order for me to get my lipids and sterols, I can get it from the tray and in. I just want to share something here for a minute when we're talking about grains, because when we look at the food pyramid, what is the base of the food pyramid? It's supposedly whole grains, bread, pasta, that kind of stuff. That's not what we want to be eating. Reason is, it turns to sugar. So there you're just going to spike your blood sugar again. Who can guess what a serving of white bread, how many teaspoons of sugar do you think that your body sees that as?
One slice of white bread?
Yep, 1 serving of white bread. What do you think?
1 teaspoon.
3.7 teaspoons. And if you've heard of the glycemic index, that's where all the foods are given for how quick they're going to raise your blood sugar. What about whole grain wheat that we see in the store? That's heart healthy, right? It says heart healthy on it. How many teaspoons of sugar do you think that breaks down to? If white bread, which is usually fairly processed, and we know that's not good for us, is 3.7, surely wheat bread must be better. Anyone have a guess?
5.
You are very close. 5.5 teaspoons.
Wow.
It is the highest on the glycemic index.
Wow.
So why do we want to put that in our body? Just to spike our blood sugar. But our cells need the lipids and sterols. There's our solution. There's our answer. So here you can see the unhealthy cell. Nutrients can't get out and waste can't get in.
Nutrients can't get in?
Yeah, nutrients can't get in, waste can't get out. Think your car, if you've got a clogged fuel filter. Gas isn't going to get to the engine. So a healthy cell is where nutrients get in and waste can get out. Those lipids and sterols are what help do that. But super important that we feed, protect, and balance our cells, because we are our cells. Glycemic response control. So based on the science of cellular nutrition and our clinically proven GR2 glycemic response control technology, this supports normal blood sugar level, promotes steady energy level, and minimizes fat storage and promotes fat burning. Again, in the green bar, so this is glycemically controlled, so it does not spike your blood sugar. And I can attest to this because my husband can drink this and not have his blood sugar go whoosh. So it slow releases those carbohydrates. And why that is so important is because you're not dumping a ton of insulin right away, which means it's going to minimize fat storage. You also want to increase insulin sensitivity. So pharmaceutically pure seashell source calcium with magnesium for improved insulin sensitivity. Essential for over 300 biochemical reactions in the body, and 80% of us don't get enough calcium and magnesium. It's in the preferred 2-to-1 ratio, calcium to magnesium ratio, and this particular one has 1,000 IU of vitamin D3. The reason that's very important is I don't know if you've looked outside, but living here, we don't get very much sun, as much as we need, and so many people slather on sunscreen and this and that, so they're not converting that vitamin D from the sun either, so we have to get it externally. And vitamin D is an extremely important hormone that helps us use the calcium and magnesium. It's also double amino acid chelation, so what that means is it is going to get over 6 times as much into your body, into your cells. What does this mean? You don't have to take as much. So you save money that way. You know, a lot of doctors will tell women that are perimenopausal or menopausal that to prevent osteoporosis, you need to take like this insane amount of calcium and magnesium. Why? Because they know you don't absorb most of it. I don't like to swallow pills. So I would rather take the lesser and know that I'm getting more of it. Improved nerve transmission. So vitamin B is super important. Our Super B, perfectly balanced, it's a perfect balance of all 8 B vitamins. Again, the whole food, the whole family. Plus inositol and choline. B vitamins provide metabolic support, and metformin decreases B12 levels. B12 is one of the Bs that gives us a lot of our energy. So if you happen to have to be on the metformin, you're going to decrease a lot of your B12. You're going to have a higher need for that B12. So again, another reason not to go on medication if you don't have to. But then you need to replace that. Sustained release of nutrients over 6 hours with the threshold control technology. Another thing that I love is because it just slowly releases instead of just dumping it all into your cells, because if you dump everything in, you can't, how fast can a sponge absorb everything before it's just pouring out? So when you don't have something that's just slowly releasing, you got expensive pee. And the lipotropic factors and nutrients that support heart health. That's true heart health, not the whole grain heart health that we see on the grocery store. Confirmed by the latest science, metabolic benefits of 6 months thiamine supplementation in patients with and without diabetes type 2. Metformin-induced vitamin B12 deficiency among patients with type 2, vitamin B12 deficiency among patients with diabetes is routine screening and supplementation justified? I think we see that it is. This is one of our favorite products because it tastes so yummy. So our tray is antioxidant and an anti-inflammatory support. Phytonutrient protection from polyphenols, including flavonoids, specific antioxidants such as alpha-lipoic acid, resveratrol, That's the yummy, that's the good, healthy stuff in wine without getting a wine headache. Glucose control and insulin sensitivity. So again, it's helping, the resveratrol helps to make our cells more insulin sensitive. Okay? And getting inflammation down in our cells is key as well, because it helps prevent oxidation and lets your cells work the way that they should. So our all-natural fiber slows absorption of sugar. When you look at a label on a food product and you see the amount of carbohydrates in it, you subtract out the fiber, because that lets you know how much carbohydrate you're actually getting, because the fiber that's in that product helps to slow that. So this is
Can you say that again?
yeah. So if you're looking at a food label and you want to see how many carbs there are, say it got 15 carbs, but it has 5 grams of fiber. You subtract that out. So if you're counting carbohydrates or something, because diabetics should be counting carbohydrates, they should know how much sugar that they're eating. They only have to count 10 grams of carbohydrates, not the full 15, because the fiber balances that out. So you look at an avocado. Avocado, if you were just to look at it, looks extremely high in carbohydrate. But it's really not, because it's mostly fiber. So it really balances it out. Each serving provides more fiber than 2 large apples. Fiber slows down the absorption of sugar, which helps to minimize spikes in blood sugar. And that's very important. If I'm choosing a fruit, I'm going to choose a fruit, because fruit is mostly fructose. I'm going to choose a fruit that has a lot of fiber, so that it doesn't just insanely spike my blood sugar. Glucose balance. This is a 2 years old now? So this is 2 years old, and we were super excited when it came out. So it combines ancient wisdom and modern science. The proprietary, I ain't even going to pronounce that word, botanical blend.
Ayurvedic.
Thank you. Natural whole food source botanicals. Cinnamon, curcumin, and turmeric are known to help support normal glucose levels during fasting and after meals. My husband, before this came out, well, this was years ago, he used to take a cinnamon capsule, and that really helped until it got stuck in his throat and dissolved, and then he was spewing cinnamon. He never took another one since. So this is really good, because he didn't have the cinnamon burn in his nose. I think his nose burned for quite some time. So cinnamon, the most studied and proven effective form for supporting healthy glucose metabolism and healthy blood glucose levels. It helps support normal fasting glucose levels, supports efficient insulin production and sensitivity, and promotes cellular glucose uptake. And it also improves the cholesterol profile. Cholesterol is not our enemy. It's not something to be scared of. So again, if you're keeping your blood glucose in check and your cholesterol ratios are balanced, it's okay to have dietary cholesterol, because your body's going to make the cholesterol that it needs. So if you're not taking it in through your diet, your body's just going to make it anyway. So don't be scared of that. But cinnamon is awesome for helping balance out those ratios, because you do want to make sure that your cholesterol is in the right ratios, and you can talk to your doctor about that. Turmeric. This antioxidant phytonutrient provides a broad spectrum of curcuminoids, as well as beneficial effects to balance inflammation and help maintain normal, healthy blood glucose levels. So that's so cool. Now, who has turmeric in their spice cabinet? Okay? Everyone has that in there. This is more than you would ever be able to get out of your spice cabinet. And the way that it's made, everybody's going to use it better than what you have in your spice cabinet. I'm not saying don't cook with it, but that doesn't replace this. And curcumin. Curcumin is actually, well, here it says, but it's part of turmeric. The most bioactive phytonutrient component of turmeric. It supports insulin production by the pancreas and may assist insulin function. So again, we want our insulin to work as best as it can so that we don't need as much. I mean, when we buy a car, we want something with good gas mileage, right? Because then we don't have to use as much gas. Same thing, why do we want to use as much insulin if we don't have to? These are supporting nutrients in the glucose balance. Chromium GTF, from GTF yeast, the most bioactive form. Chromium is a critical cofactor with insulin and essential for the normal healthy metabolism of carbohydrates and also maintain normal cellular responsiveness to insulin. This was so cool because we always used to try and look for, this was long before Knee Life, we would try to look for a chromium supplement that would actually help my husband. There wasn't anything out there, nothing worked, this actually works. So it's, again, because it's not synthetic, it's from food, so it works really well. Alpha-lipoic acid provides protection from free radicals created during metabolic processes, helps support normal blood sugar levels, and supports the cell's ability to utilize insulin. Again, the better that we can use our insulin, the less we have to use of it. We lose weight, our cells are happier, our liver is happier, we're happier because, you know, we can buy new clothes. That's always fun. So with that, life based in nature and backed by science. Yes?
Okay, so I have a question. You got to help me out here because I love bread.
Yes?
So whole wheat bread, I know you mentioned it has more, it's higher in carbs, so you're going to have more sugar. However, it's helpful. It's better than white bread because it has the fiber, right?
Yes. So it's going to spike your blood sugar more. It's kind of that catch-22. So there's more fiber in it, and if you have the gumption to grind your own wheat berries, then you're even better. Michael?
There's also, well, because I'm a label freak. It doesn't necessarily have more fiber.
Right.
Okay.
Read the brands. They will say anything on the label. Read the fiber. You can find stuff. There's this healthy earth grains, blah 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 blah, and it looks like it's made out of sandpaper and sawdust. And you look at the thing, and 2 slices has 1 gram of fiber.
So if you wanted to make your own,
Yeah.
grind your wheat berries, add some of the Neolife fiber into it. One of the reasons that bread is so, and pastas and things, are so high on the glycemic index is because they're made from refined flour. So when you take something, like a wheat berry or whatever, and you grind it up, you're grinding it up into these teeny tiny particles. Well, we know that a teeny tiny particle is going to be taken up just like that versus something that's bigger and has to be worked to break down. So it hits that bloodstream that much faster. I said I don't eat any carbohydrates like that, no processed. If I lived in Italy, maybe, because their flour is completely different. I know a lot of people in the European countries that can eat the bread over there and they don't gain weight, they don't get bloated, they don't feel gross, their blood sugar doesn't go up. So if I lived there, maybe I wouldn't have a problem with eating some bread every now and then. But here in the United States, where the acronym for our diet is SAD, I'm not going to touch it. I'll make my own bread with some almond flour, but I don't eat that very often either. But almonds are full of fiber, so it makes a difference. Any other questions?
Just to comment, the other thing is on in the Pro Vitality, the one that's got the grain oils in it.
Yep.
The things that are in that are the things that they take out of the store-bought bread. The bread on the shelf, no matter what it says, how good it is for you, they took that out. Or that bread on the shelf would be moldy the day after they put it on the shelf.
Is that the oils, the grain oils?
The very fact that it's not moldy right away when they put it on the shelf is because they took that out.
And you look at the expiration date, it's like, what, 7 days after you know, it's insane. So, yeah, our whole grain products, are not that of some of the other countries, and so they're not exactly heart. If it says heart healthy, I avoid it.
It's pretty scary.
Anything else?
Well, thank you very much, Sherry.